we were very much dominating, or leading the game, because it was not such a thing just yet. And I say we because, even though I launched the label in 2007, around 2010-ish, Ivan Diaz came to Belgium and, helped me, co-manage the label. I mean, he actually managed the label as label manager before then passing on the ball to Sifa, and, that's not as true. But bottom line is that we were really leading the charts, with Da Capo, all these great artists. And so anybody who would sign or release records with us, it was really a big step of approval for major labels in South Africa, for example. Sony, Universal, you signed with Boddhi or da. It was like this thing where it was really launching careers, at least not launching careers. It was facilitating their entry point, and then they would do their thing. So, in no way, shape, or form am I taking away the hard work from them. But, offering recordings was a staple in the game at a certain point. And so, as this phase 3 is really, booming and doing its thing, phase 4, we start discovering the likes of DJ Malvado, big Angolan, DJ, producer, legend, who has different hats musically. He would produce a Simba album or Afro House album or whatnot, and he does it greatly. Knows how to surround himself with the right producers to do these records. And then we start discovering, but then again, let me remind you, all these guys are contemporary, if not even elders, because they're already playing that sound before, but it's just that they're entering the game at a much later point, But they're bringing different sounds now. And so around that phase 4, so we're looking at around 2011, maybe 2011, 2012. You have Maporisa, Uhuru, Professor, the whole Kalawa, Jesme sound, which I have to say, Oskido was embraced a lot more than anyone Afro House. Oskido really embraced a lot more anyone than Afro House, at least according to my little knowledge. And Durban, with Black Soul and those guys. Also, you have Tira and all those big DJs. Afro House had some grounds there. Pretoria as well, I think, if I'm not wrong. But with for fact, I do know that Joe Berg. If we're talking about South Africa, but again, I haven't touched on the rest of the continent just yet. Alongside these different phases, you have the likes of Dorivaldo, that are coming up with the the Osbana guys, with the Manyoko and Pundu records. You have obviously Satellites, who have been doing things in the Kuduro world, but now starts dwelling with Afro House, and so his name comes up, to our attention, and then all of these guys, and we're talking about the interesting time. The phases are really not so long in terms of time and separation. We're looking at a minimum of 3 to 6 years of that, and that's pretty amazing, between each phases. Some of them even closer. Morocco starts coming in the loop for the gigs, first and foremost, and rest in peace, Mehdi Damir. My prayers goes out to his family. He's died a couple of years ago now. This brother opened a club in Casablanca, the first club serving soulful and Afro house. Well, soulful and house music pretty much, but also some Afro, even though it was not predominantly the sound that they were playing. That was the first club dedicated to the sound in Morocco, in Casablanca. Bearing in mind that at the time, what was dominating was these very commercial sounds, EDM, So we're talking about 2009. That's about 2009, 2008, 2009, around the same time. So we have clubs that are opening, that are starting to dedicate themselves to the sounds, introducing, various producers and DJs from different kind of origins, influencing us locally. Now the likes of, I still remember Mr. ID, DJ Aladdin, rest in peace, CL Assad, all those guys when they were coming up. It was really interesting. We could see the influences and the way they were realizing the potential of their own music being introduced to the world through Afro House, right? So, Fabio Gomez, what's going on? How you doing? So that whole phase 4 is constituted by the birth also of the love for this sound in the heart of club owners, some club owners, some promoters. Around that same time, I am blessed to perform in Los Angeles with a massive legend, night promoter, DJ extraordinaire Marcus Wyatt, who runs at the time and still to this day Deep. The night is called Deep. Crazy. We're talking about Marcus Wyatt at the Vanguard in Los Angeles, Hollywood, Deep. Who doesn't want to play there? It's the get down. It's the place to be. It's the place where you as a DJ, that when you play Deep, it opens a lot of other doors. So boom, Marcus gives me a chance. I introduce people to the sound, additionally to what he was doing around that set. Man, it's crazy because also radio stations like independent, a guy like Lars Bernross, nobody can forget Lars Bernross' contribution, because Lars Bernross already had a massive take in South Africa through his Deeper Shades of House show, right? He was one of the early guys who podcasted. I don't know how many thousands of podcasts he has right now, but I think it's well in the over 3,000. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but at least 3,000 podcasts since he started. So this guy is like on some next level shit. And so we have all these different now. People start gravitating around the sound within that phase 4 because it's a very it's exciting. You can sense there is something, the likes of Gregor Salto with DJ Gregory, with the song together that came out on Defected. Obviously you have these influences that are now being integrated within the French connection. The likes of obviously Manu, who had already been doing his thing together with Rocco, but now it really is looking like, oh shit, guys like, whom we never heard back of, in the game, Fabricio Ortega. Dope producer, man. Dope producer, this guy, man. God, there was so many guys that was doing great shit, Anto Vitale, Anto Vitale, crazy producer. Who else? Man, it was a whole era. It was a whole era of guys and girls just doing their thing and really contributing to the sound. So that was very, 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 very amazing. Very interesting. So phase 5 happens, I think, we're looking at 2015, 2014, 2015. Maybe a little, I think around that time. Then you have, come to our attention the likes of DJ Brett, the likes of, Satellite, maybe you can add some names here around that time, but, you had a lot of producers that came to our attention. DJ Telio, the guys of Bamboo Records, but they came a little bit afterwards to our attention. But, in Portugal, when the Angolans were really leading the whole thing, you had DJ Havaiana, Abias, that are still doing great things to this day. Still pushing fresh sounds, but they were really dominating and influencing the whole sound. And the Portuguese Afro House started to come to light. With Angolan, the Angolan diaspora of kids that were born of Angolan origins were born in Portugal, or the Cape Verdean kids of Cape Verdean origins were born in Portugal, bringing forth their influences, their own take on the sound, and creating, different sound and drum patterns, a little bit more banging, and that's up to more recent time. So phase 5, I would say, was the DJ Brace, Havaiana, BS, etc. Then things started going a little bit faster, and since 2000, I would say 2016, since 2017, the sound has evolved dramatically and continuously. The reason why I'm giving you these phases, and I said earlier before I started identifying, so far we've had 8 phases of sonic refreshment, sonic revolution. And you rarely see that in any genre, really. You rarely do, where the sound evolves so much, so fast, and so efficiently, and creates subgenres every time, which is pretty amazing. A bit confusing at times, but still amazing. So, if I was to give an age to Afro House has about, is between 35 to 40 years old. If I am to include the influences. Without the influences, the originators of the, as I mentioned earlier, phase 1, Ten Aglias, Joe Placel, the Louis Vega, Kenny Dopes, etc. But those forefathers, and I can't forget the techno guys as well, Carl Craig, Juan Atkins, Teal Parrish, man, all these guys, man, they brought their own influences and Africanness to the sounds, to techno, which again for me is very connected to Afro House. And as we will see, obviously, and as I'm coming to it, you'll see the obvious reason why. So 8 phases so far, 8 revolution. That's amazing. That's amazing and promising for the capacity of our industry to renew itself and to refresh itself. The dominance of South Africa, however, remains potent. The industry is very well structured. At a certain time, Angola could have really took over and become the world capital of Afro House, and they got their shit together and really not fucked around with all the money they had at a certain point. At a certain point, these guys had so much money, man. It was not even funny. When Angola was about to buy Portugal, literally, man, the producers, the DJs were literally swimming in pools of money. And they did nothing or very little of it, except spending it and doing fuck shit with it, when they could have built an industry. South Africans, on the other hand, managed to build for themselves an amazing, sustainable industry, very well structured. You have the media that goes with it, so you have tabloids that comes with it, an entire industry has been put in place, providing work for thousands and thousands of people, right? And it's been the case for a long fucking time. You have to understand that this came also at a price, right? This came at a price for all those guys. The Vinny Da Vinci's, the Christos, Oskidos, Greg Malaka, etc. All those guys really fought hard to bring forth to your attention one of the superstars that we have now, for example, Black Coffee, who, congratulations to him, had won a Grammy, I mean, you've got to understand how big this is for the music we're doing, even though, you know, it may not seem for some as anything, you know, it is seen as something special, but it may not be seen as something as impactful as it is. It is very impactful. It's very impactful in the sense that it has opened the door for our sound to integrate others and to enter completely new realm. You know, hey, shot, the vibrance of the community is important. Then again, the lack of leadership never helps. Exactly. And so, you know, going back to the recent revolutions that we've had, you know, circling back to Kofi, for example, with his rise to power, I would say, and to leadership of a certain sound, you know, where I have had issues with some of the lingos used by him or others regarding Afro House, because they've never really embraced Afro House. For them, they didn't want to be supposedly caught into Afro House per se. And at a certain point myself, I had not quite grasped the concept of Afro House, because I was a bit conflicted with how it was portrayed and put out there, right? Until I realized that no. This is our baby. We started this whole thing. We have got to push much harder and own it. Whereas a lot of people were very quick to say, no, I'm not Afro House. Because you know what? It had a connotation. Afro House always had, and to this day, you know, has a connotation of something, it's too black. Oh, it's too black. And me, in the game, I am considered to be one of the guys that plays too black, too African. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but I know what it means. It's just not appealing to a crowd of people who spend the kind of money that can pay for the kind of fees some of these DJs are asking. Fair enough. Maybe you're right. At least at the time, you're probably right. Nowadays, with all these different industry being birthed and the different type of promoters, you know, coming to life, and the different type of public you have access to, that may be a very shifting sort of truth. But with that being said, you know, Cross was very much considered a bit of a taboo. So Afro tech makes sense, because obviously there's an integration of techno in the sound of African house music. But you've got to understand, we started Afrotech a long time ago. We were doing that, man, before it was even called Afrotech. And as I said earlier, one of the guys that really bridged and opened the gates was Kulu the Song, because of the way he was introduced to the industry of techno through Innovations, Dixon's label, right? And when Brother Kulo decided to release this music with them and release actually a couple of projects that was very successful, that, in my opinion, was a trigger point, allowing the cross-pollination of the sounds in a way, in a much broader way, right? So phase 6, sorry, excuse me. So phase 5, as I said earlier, you know, Brett, you know, DJ Jesus, Telio, etc., all those guys, great stuff. Phase 6, or 5.1 is the domination of Afrotech, right? So starting 2017, we're seeing this movement. We're seeing that, okay, there's something happening. The DJs, the so-called underground is no more underground, really. you're starting to see, I remember, this is where people need to understand. Everything is very, us humans, we are very visual, right? So, the moment we saw coffee, I remember it was very important. It was a very important thing for us even to evaluate ourselves, because he is one of our guys, who is there in a helicopter going to a gig in Monaco. Like, this had never been seen before in our industry. Now, bear in mind, the guy is not claiming to be Afro, right? But because we originate, we believe that because obviously his sounds originates also in our sound of Afro House. We obviously integrated him and considered his success ours, just like any other guys who has, taken roots in Afro House and then evolved into doing their own things. Because that gave hope, that gave courage, that gave a sentiment that, okay, this is going somewhere. One of us is doing this. Let's not forget, because of South Africa being the nation that it is, a nation that embraces house music, that embraces their artists, South Africans are very jealous of their artists. They love their music, they love their people, and they'll support each other, which is amazing. But they won't necessarily support other countries necessarily in the continent. And that is the truth that has to be said. It's also something that plainly the advantage of having such remarkable producers and DJs take over the world, because when you have a whole nation behind you, it gives you so much wind and also a crazy amount of challenges, but you have a support that is really a remarkably massive support, which, if you're looking at Angola, for example, Angolans love their music, but they don't support each other the way they should. Like, there's just a lot of like shooting in each other's foot kind of situation going on, and it gets annoying as fuck. And that's one of the reasons why, again, separation and, being no unity brings to, the dissolution of any potential, solid thing to take place, because, you don't have all the elements together. The cement is not going to take, it's not going to bear anything solid. Whereas South Africans have this thing, they may not necessarily all like each other, whatever, but they'll support each other. They'll be there. Like, if one of them wins, it's all of them, and they're pushing, and they're, very much like the Nigerians. That's one of their strengths that I have to say is extremely remarkable, and from which we need to draw a lot of inspiration. But let's not forget, I'm a Central African brother, and I'm one of the guys who inspired their sound as well, the Afro House. So, it's a Central African brother. Some Angolan brothers are doing the same. So let's not forget our contributions. Raul K, Ivory Coast. Who else? Seth Evo, Kenya. Okay, he drew inspirations from South Africa, but still, let's not forget how now the inspiration and all of these sounds and all of these eras are starting to it's really becoming something. And there's a guy that is and again, it's important to pay homage and to give credit where they're due. But one who has not been getting his flowers the way he should have, in my opinion, is Maphorisa. Maphorisa is one of the most Afro House guy that we may know, because I remember, for the story, Maphorisa's first biggest hit was done together with me and Dinga Gaba. It was actually, the song was called Dinga. Big tune. At the time, nobody was spitting like these atalakus the way I did on the song. After that came all this era of guys like doing these like crazy things on the mic. They were not doing it the way we were doing it. Central Africans, we this is the thing. It's not a matter of saying I'm Central African, I'm West African, no, but it's just history gets forgotten along the way if it's not told. So now I'm telling you how it's how it's happened and how it's incepted a whole movement. So when Maphorisa, had this big hit of his, which was also a big hit for us. I mean, that Dinga track for me in Angola was huge. Man, you have no idea. The thing that you don't understand, a lot of producers from Angola would travel to South Africa. DJs, mostly DJs, who didn't really have the production skills, would go to South Africa and get, guys like Maphorisa, Cuba, and all these other folks to produce records for them. They would go back home to Angola, drop their singles, and do their things, right? And build reputation in the name of that. So there's always been a connection between the two countries. Well, not only in music, actually politically, maybe not so many people know that, but Jacob Zuma, former president of South Africa, used to live in Angola, right? So there is a lot. I mean, I don't want to go too deep because I love my history and I love to go deep into things and I can explain what is the connection between this and that. But bottom line is, within the phase 5, with the dominance of Afrotech, you have a guy that, completely on the side of things. Nobody's looking at him. He's literally in the dead angle of your mirror, of your rear mirror. And that's Maphorisa. Working with Wizkid, crafting the sounds and hits for Wizkid, Davido, Burna Boy. Just to name those 3 guys. Some of the 3 biggest names now in the world coming from the African continent. This guy, Maphorisa, has been a pivotal influence and reason for the hits. His music, the music that he's done for him, for those guys, respectively, helped those guys build the name for themselves. And what was that music? Afro House. Afro House gave birth to Afrobeats. Better yet, Afro House gave birth to Amapiano. Because Amapiano, I remember when I went to South Africa in 2016, I was looking for a place where I was going to live. I was introduced to Amapiano in Soweto. I went for a friend's bride in Soweto. And I heard this music and I was like, what is this sound? It was very interesting. It was this very slow tempo and it was just, piano sound or road sounds. There was not all this crazy, log drum stuff going on. And they're like, no, it's called Mapiano. Oh, okay, cool, nice, man, nice. And they're like, but you'll see, it's not gonna last too long because, the likes of AKA and Casper Nyovest and all these guys were coming up. And hip hop, is dominating the game anyways nowadays in South Africa, but already back then, 2016, it was crazy. So Mapiano was taken to the next level, in my personal opinion, by Maphorisa and Kabza De Small, under the high influence of Maphorisa, because of his understanding of how to turn sounds into commercially appealing product, right? So when Maphorisa embraced Amapiano, that was it. It took Amapiano to the next level and really paved the way for all these other guys that came right after him, or probably around the same time, but just didn't have that inspiration that he had. Again, that's my reading of it. I might be wrong. I stand to be probably corrected or not. But for me, we have to distinguish very important elements within the phase 5, which is 2017. The amazing growth of coffee, and the sound, and having, now you have Alicia Keys, you have P. Diddy, you have Cassie, you have and oh shit, now everybody's getting excited. But at the same time, again, you have that phase 6, which is the Maphorisa situation here. And that's where, I think lines get blurred and slightly, all purposely or not, but interestingly enough, you have certain point the history that's been forgotten about, maybe because people don't know, because they don't want to know, because it's been I don't know. But nonetheless, it took, in my personal observation, Afro House guy, Maphorisa from South Africa, to come deliver these kind of records, work together with the local producers, like for me, one of the, great producer, Shizi, Davido's producer, who's done quite a lot of hits, including Davido's hits with Chris Brown. Shizi and I were connected because actually Maphorisa introduced him to my sound. And it's amazing to see how, without us knowing, all of us had an influence on one another.